Here we go. And we're
Hey.
live. Testing. Can you hear me, Paul?
All clear. Yeah, I've got you.
Perfect. Hey, welcome everybody to today's live session, continuation episode number 4, I think it is, of the Swiss recruitment journeys. Welcome today, my guest, Paul Hanley. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks, mate.
Quick check on the IT side of things. Everything seems to be working fine. If you're having any issues, let us know. Send a message in the chat, and we'll see that. Quick introduction on my side. So my name's Lee Diamond. I'm the owner of We Recruit in Zurich, and we're a recruitment and talent expert for the Swiss market. And I'm constantly trying to put content out there to add value to the recruitment industry, especially for the Swiss market, where I've been for the last 18 years now. And in these episodes, I'm interviewing local leaders and learning from them about their career, what they wanted to be growing up, how they got into recruitment, and how they became so successful as they are today. And it will really be a unique insight into their journeys, the ups and downs, the different markets that they've worked on. And my guest today, as I mentioned, Paul, he has more than 15 years of experience in recruitment, worked in many more countries than I have. So we're talking about from the UK, Singapore, India, China, and now the last years in Switzerland. So we'll learn more about that. But yeah, let me hand the word over to you, Paul. Maybe you want to share with us a few words.
Sure. Excellent. Well, first of all, yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, quickly from my side. So yeah, I'm Paul. I'm originally from the UK. I'm from Manchester. It's very important to know I'm a Manchester City supporter, not a Manchester United supporter.
Blue or red.
For anybody that's interested. Yeah, been a total global journey. So from England to Singapore, from Singapore to India, from India to China, and then to Switzerland. So many years of industry experience to hopefully share, both with obviously my teams that I manage here in Switzerland and anybody else who's tuning in today. So hope it can be useful in some way to give a little bit back to the industry. So thanks for the invite.
Perfect. No, glad to have you on. And you know, I think it's always good to hear about different journeys. You know, we're coaching recruiters, developing career plans for people. It's great to see how that can grow over the years. Yeah, let's jump right in it. As always, it's a live session, so in case anyone has any comments, any questions, feel free to throw them in, and otherwise we roll on with the questions that we've prepared. And you know, for me, one that I always really enjoy asking people, and I never get the same answer twice. What did you want to be when you were young, before recruitment? You know.
Yeah. Well, I didn't dream of being a recruitment consultant, that's for sure. I don't think I knew what it was until I became one. And it's a bit of a strange answer, really. But I didn't actually know a specific vocation that I wanted to do when I grew up. You know, I didn't have a dream of being a pilot or a lawyer, or you know, what I did know is, you know, I don't think I was ever going to do something overly technical. So the world of science or mathematics, you know, that wasn't my thing. What I did know is I always enjoyed work, you know, sort of dealing with people, whether it was, you know, through my football team, whether it was at school, you know, whatever it was, is I felt I was sort of akin to working in a people related industry. I knew that at some point I wanted to travel. Like I said earlier, growing up in Manchester, I think the only thing you think about until you're 18 is how quickly can I get out of Manchester. So I knew I wanted to be overseas. I knew I wanted to do something related to people, and I knew I wanted to do something that I could make some money in. You know, my background when I grew up, you know, my mum was a nurse, my dad was a photographer, I had 2 brothers, 2 sisters. I'm the eldest. You know, it was very humble beginnings. And I knew, you know, if I can build a career in something that can also allow me to build my lifestyle and everything else as we grow, then I'd be interested in doing that. So yeah, there's no specific answer as to exactly what job I wanted to do, apart from, of course, being a football agent. You know, that was the dream job.
Not the player.
No, well, I mean, the player, yes, but I think you have to be also conscious of your talent, right? I playing on a Saturday and a Sunday, yes, but that was never going to make it to the Man City first 11. So I thought football agent was always the coolest job. A travel agent, I actually thought was quite cool, booking people's holidays. Then I thought, no, you're booking other people's holidays, not going on holiday yourself. So that quickly died.
It's funny, it's funny you say that, Paul. Actually, I early in my career, I started in tourism and was a travel agent selling holidays to Australasia. So really complex round the world itineraries. And, I think similar to recruitment, it's a lot of fun because you're talking about something people are dreaming about, whether it's a dream holiday, the dream job, taking them on a journey and kind of guiding them through that. And then the excitement when they book it. So there's a lot of similarities.
But then they just send you the pictures and you're not actually there.
Exactly.
Whereas I don't want to be a Microsoft Azure cloud solution architect, but I would very much like to be on holiday in Mexico right now. So
wouldn't we all? Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. And like study wise, did you study for long? Did you go straight into work?
Yeah, no. So I don't know if it's unique or not these days, but after, and I suppose this will lead us nicely onto the next question in terms of how do I get into recruitment. But, when I finished my college in the UK, so when you're 18 years old and you decide then, do you want to go to university or not? Most of my friends had that plan of that year out to go and put a backpack on and travel around Thailand or Australia. I never really fancied that. B, I don't know where these people got, multiple thousands of pounds from when they're 18 years old, because I certainly didn't have it to be able to do that. So after college, before going to university, I said to myself, well, get a job. And I got a job in a bank, just to sort of see how work begins and how I can start to save some money. And all my friends were on the other side of the world. So after a job in a bank, that was rubbish. And then decided to apply for this trainee recruitment consultant vacancy, which I had no idea about. But I started doing that when I was basically 19 years old. And then I thought to myself, well, this is good. I'm starting to earn some money. And I don't really know what I want to do if I then quit this job and went to university for 3 years. And this company are telling me in 3 years I can be a manager and hire people. So in the end, I didn't go to university. I started my recruitment career very early on. And thankfully, it worked out well, because by the time I was 21, 22, I was a manager and I was hiring fresh graduates who had done a year in Thailand and then gone and done 3 years at university. And they were working in my team. So, it's quite ironic how it played out. But no, I think I'm probably one of few people who didn't go to university and enabled their career to develop still quite quickly. But that's the beauty of recruitment, right? It's not about what you studied. It's about how good you are at your job. And that worked out well. So
I think I think that's the unique thing about, as you say, about recruitment. Like myself, I mean, I personally I left school after doing a year of college. Went straight into work, wanted to make money, wanted to move out, wanted to be responsible and pay my own bills. And without the education, found myself climbing the ranks through recruitment. Previously on the leadership team of Switzerland for the Adecco Group. And I think that's really unique about our business. It's about how capable you are, how good you are at the job, and what you can bring to the table. And I think that goes for being a manager in our business, but also the success as a recruitment consultant as well, and all levels of the job. So
yeah, totally agree. Well, there's a trend there. Good.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so we know how you got into recruitment. You saw the ad, you fell in. So I mean, let's talk about the time in your career where you feel that you learned the most, and why.
Yeah, I think there's in 15 or 16 years of doing this job, there's things I learned the most, and I know this is an ironic answer, but things I learned the most multiple times. Because when you first learn something, you think it's the most you ever learned, and then when you learn something else, you've naturally developed that learning cycle. So, for me, the very first job I had in recruitment that I alluded to earlier, it was for a small sort of owner-managed business in the UK. And the chap who owned that company, a guy called Rob, he taught me all the fundamental basics of recruitment. So there's not a day that goes by that the stuff I learned from him when I was a kid that we don't put into practice every day here. So, the importance of relationships, especially working in a small company, You know, the value he put on repeat business. You know, his ethos of the candidate is king. You know, I mean, all these things, these what sound like now terrible cliches, but are so important in the grounding of your recruitment career. So, you know, at the very early stage, that was obviously massively important. When I worked for Michael Page, there was a lady called Talika, who you know, was the managing director of Michael Page in Singapore, and then latterly in India. And you know, I learned from her a hell of a lot when it comes to managing people. You know, she had this crazy unique ability, almost like an addictive ability, to create buy-in between her team. You know, in terms of creating this culture of people wanting to be successful, people driving hard blindly through walls to build a successful business. You know, she indoctrinated this culture, which is something I've never seen before and never seen since, to be honest, and try to replicate, you know, that in my management style sometimes. You know, at Hayes, you know, I work for Mark Lutz, you know, and there I really how he can remain so calm and manage such a complex, large organization, you know, with so many stakeholders and politics involved in a global corporation, you know, in such a smooth, you know, stable way. So, you know, they're the people that I learned from. I suppose I also learned a hell of a lot from other people in terms of how not to do it. You know, those are the people I remember as successful role models. There's also a few nameless people who I've worked with in my career who I look at and say, God, you know, I'm not going to do it like you. And that in some way helps you learn more than maybe you can from the people that do it really well. Because, you know, you think, but if they manage that person like that, I would not want to be in their team. So therefore, I'm not going to manage my team like they do, you know, because everybody's going to quit. So I think you learn as much from people in a negative way than you do in a positive. But, you know, I've been very fortunate to have some really good role models throughout my career, and that's allowed me to sort of blend my management experience to what it is now, I suppose. Yeah.
No, I think you know, there's good role models and bad role models, as you say. We learn from all of them, and you know, I think I remember one of my managers previously saying to me that I think the statement was, you know, I have my management style, and people need to adapt to how I manage. And you know, I was always a bit more focused on the human side of things and saying, okay, you know, we need to find out how to motivate, how to develop, how to get the best out of an individual. And there is no one size fits all. And I think that's our job as a leader to be able to adapt and be a chameleon and you know, find the best way to get the best out of the people.
Totally agree. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, no, perfect. So let's talk a little bit, because you know what I'm always curious about is, and sorry, the video is a little bit laggy, but the sound is perfect, so we still hear you, but sometimes the video is lagging a bit. So I'm sorry if that's if you're also experiencing that. Maybe it's just me, but bear with us. Hopefully it stabilizes a bit, but the sound is absolutely perfect. But yeah, one thing that always interests me, having only, let's say, led recruitment and been in recruitment in Switzerland, you know, I'm always curious about the markets in different countries, the different, you know, I assume, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe, but I assume that can be some huge differences and probably a lot of similarities. But I mean, what country was the hardest, do you think, to build business and to build teams? From the different places that you experienced?
Yeah, again, I don't know if I'm really fortunate or really unfortunate because every single country has had its own nuances and difficulties. So for example, I mean, the two that clearly stand out are India and China. So when I moved to India with Michael Page, you know, they asked me to go there to lead the launch of their Mumbai operations. You know, to give you some context, I was 25 years old. You know, so I'm on a plane from Singapore to landing in Mumbai with no office, no people, no database, literally a laptop and a hotel room, with the task of scaling, you know, a whole organization. And the first thing you'd assume you'd then do to hire people is to say, right, who are our competitors in the local market, and go and sell the story. The irony of India is there were also no competitors. So India didn't have an established professional services recruitment consulting industry. Had a huge amount of sort of offshoring RPO MSP type programs, but not your traditional contingent specialist recruitment agency. So turning up there with literally a suitcase and a laptop, was incredibly difficult to find people, to adapt to a new culture, to understand the nuances of how operational day-to-day business takes place in a totally alien foreign country. And Indians, some of my best friends in the world, I made whilst I was in Mumbai. But as a white man from Manchester, turning up into India, I mean, for a start, and this is back in 2010, 2011, for a start, you're already a minority. And then you have to go and do your business and build business and inspire people and train people and coach people on an industry that doesn't yet exist.
Educating people why there's a service that they've completely missed out on in the rest of the world, and that they have to have.
Exactly right. So I mean that was absolutely crazy. But super fun. Probably some of the most enjoyable times of my whole life. Forget work. We're in Mumbai. And then the biggest shift then was to go from India to China. Because in India, now I can say this, and these are all just my personal beliefs, by the way, from local experience. But when I'm managing a team in India, to build camaraderie, to build loyalty, to build culture, for me was relatively straightforward, because the Indian culture is very open. It's a happy, proactive culture. And therefore, when you're standing at the front of a room and rallying your troops to talk to more clients, to win more business, it's brilliant because this just happens by default. Because they believe in you as a leader.
Wall Street here right now.
Oh no! I mean, I hope not. But I mean, let's take a cooler, classier version. But I mean, no, building that culture was relatively straightforward. But then going to China as a 27, 28-year-old, as the head of China for Robert Walters, based in Shanghai, I suppose the mistake I made is I arrived thinking that the world is one place. And I'm stood at the front of the room in my new Shanghai office with 80 people who now by de facto report to me, and I'm beating the same drum. We can do this. We will take over the market. And everybody's looking at me as if to say, who is this guy? As in total awkward silence in the room, as in he doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't speak Mandarin. He's younger than us all. And he's from India and England. He doesn't know. This guy's going to last 3 months. And that first day was a very lonely first day in Shanghai for sure.
Bit of a reality check.
Absolutely, and I turned up thinking I was great. I launched Michael Page India. It then became a very successful business. Turned up in China, I was back to not even zero, -1. Because the Chinese mentality is more about we'll believe you when you show us that it happens, as opposed to you tell us that this might happen. So it took probably the best part of 6 months to build any sort of internal credibility in China. But once we got past that milestone and people then believed in the journey and they saw the results of what we were implementing, then we were flying. But building a company in India from scratch and turning around a company in China were absolutely two of the biggest challenges that I've ever had. And I suppose the final 20 seconds on this, coming to Switzerland, let's not forget this. I turned up to Geneva in what is a very well established recruitment market, with big local competitors, people like your old employers, Badenoch and Clark and Spring, Michael Page, and I took over the Hayes business in Geneva, which was, I think 3 or 4 people when I first arrived. And when we built that to 30, 35 people in Geneva, relatively quickly, and put it back on the map as a key recruitment agency in the Swiss Romand market, but infiltrating those existing Swiss relationships, which we all know are so important, building a team, convincing people to join a business that's smaller than the current one that they work in with no real additional USP, was also incredibly tough. But like I say, it's only really down to hard work and having really good people around you. And when you've got those two things in recruitment, you normally take care of business.
Well, it sounds good. I mean, again, what a kind of billboard or kind of advertising promotion for recruitment as a whole. Starting from Manchester, getting the opportunity to go to India, to China, to Switzerland, to travel the world and develop your career through kind of hard work and success. And doing
all the jobs nobody wanted to do. I think that also might have helped to accelerate my my career prospects a little bit. Not many people put their hand up and said, yeah, sure, I'll go to Mumbai.
But that in itself is a huge cultural difference. I've never been to Mumbai, so I can't really say, but I can imagine, it's a completely different country, especially if you compare it to somewhere like Switzerland now, for example.
Totally different, and equally as charming and unique and as brilliant, but just in a totally radically different way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, you know what? I want to chuck in another question as well, because we're talking about leadership, building up teams, things like that. And I actually saw, there's not many people who have more recommendations on LinkedIn than me, and I think you're one of them. And most of them, as I saw from your team members, people that you've worked with or that worked for you, really, flying the flag about you as a manager. So I want to chuck in a question here about what makes a great manager, and why how does that relate to you?
Cool. Yeah. Well, good question. Again, not one we've thought about in advance of the meeting. So this one's total freestyle. In terms of what makes a good manager, I think the first thing is you have to stay as far away from the do as I say, not as I do, as you can. Right. You have to be a role model. There's not a job I've had, despite whether you're managing 100 people or 20 people, every single job I've done, I've been client facing, right? And in recruitment, and you'll know this, running your own company, right? You're the CEO of your business, but you're the one that makes business happen. And it's exactly the same in any role. I think in the recruitment industry, unless you're adding value to the P&L in some way, you're a cost. And costs can be replaced very quickly. So you have to create value, and that value that you bring, your team members see it. They see you as a role model. If I'm the one going out pitching, to be on the PSL of a large Swiss corporation, and I'm not leaving that responsibility just to the people in my team, first they think I know what I'm talking about, which is great, and credibility is an important factor. So I think being on the front line and acting and doing the job that you expect other people to do is critically important at any level of an organization. If you're sat in your office with your door closed, I mean, you're not a recruitment leader. As simple as that. And the second part, when it comes to managing people, I think treating people fairly is such a simple thing to say, but it's something that's so often underestimated. Having full transparency around how people can get promoted, having no favoritism of, this person bills the most, so they'll surely make the best manager. No, it's you have to have, clear rules of engagement with your business. So everybody knows exactly where they stand. They know that the best people get the best jobs, and it's not for any other reason. I think coming down to creating that culture as well, I try to create in any business that I run, a genuine team spirit. I think people come to work because they enjoy working in that recruitment agency. I think now it's slightly different at FRG because I believe and I'm not selling here, but I believe we've got a genuine USP to the market, which we'll talk about later. But when you work in a Hayes or a Michael Page or a Badenoch and Clark, why do people work for you? They work for you. They work for the leader of the team. And if they feel that they're recognized, if they feel that they're rewarded fairly, if they feel they've got the fairest chance of having a promotion or earning more money just as much as anybody else in the business, if they feel that you've got your full support and they see you doing your job really well, why would they leave? And I think empathy plays a big part in it as well. You know, you have to be sympathetic. You have to be empathetic with your team. You have to understand what people are going through.
Because it's not an easy job. Ultimately, it's a bloody hard job to do.
I think the hardest. We're obviously biased, but you know, not many jobs that you get rejected 80% of the time you try to do something. You know, and so the resilience factor is so important.
Yeah.
And the final thing for me as the leader of a business, I think, you know, you have to be consistent in your behavior. You know, nobody likes an erratic boss that one day's, you know, having a great time and high-fiving everybody, and the next day's grumpy and angry and sending, you know, horrible emails to people because they didn't do something, you know. So I try and leave any sort of, you know, mood or disappointment or you know, frustration outside the door and really come in, and I see my job as to motivate people, to treat people fairly, you know, and to do what they do, myself as well, and then there's typically no questions asked.
No. Okay. Perfect. Well, thanks a lot for the answer. I think there's definitely some good advice in there to managers and future managers, and I think bias in our business. We're in sales. People who are performing, who are successful, you know, not always the first and best person to become a manager. It's a huge struggle, I think, as a leader, to kind of manage the expectations of somebody who wants to be a manager and who is the best salesperson, but perhaps not the best person to be a manager. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges or hurdles to get over as a leader in our business, for the fear of maybe upsetting or losing, you know, a top performing person. So it's always important to be able to articulate that in an extremely, you know, communicative way, very empathic, to help the person understand where their career and path can go, how they can develop, and also, if it is a possibility, what the gaps are that they need to make up. But it's definitely a challenging one in our business.
True. And, you know, and everybody thinks it's the holy grail to be a manager, I think, in recruitment. When I speak to young people entering recruitment for the first time, you know, they're, oh, I want to be a manager in 3 years. I want to be a manager in 3 years. Some people just don't. You know, some of the most successful people in the recruitment industry have never managed a single person. You know, they manage their clients brilliantly. They have a full candidate life cycle control because they love I suppose the different elements of the job, but being a manager, it's not all that it's cracked up to be. And being a billing manager is probably the hardest job in recruitment, where you have the same personal fee objective as somebody underneath you, but you have to also help them do theirs, and multiple people do theirs as well as do your own. You know, this job, if you make it past that level, then then you've done something right in your career, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, let me tell you, it's easier to motivate myself in the morning than to get up and motivate 40 people, you know.
Exactly. I'm sure. Sure.
Okay. Sorry, I just want to check. Okay, sorry. Mabel was trying to get connected and seemed to have some issues, but she is on, so all good. Yeah, again, apologies if you're experiencing some lag on the video, but as I say, the audio is really good. You guys need to upgrade your Wi-Fi a bit.
Is it mine?
Mine is solid and stable, but I'm connected with the cable as well. But it's funny that the video lags a bit and the audio is absolutely fine, so I'm not quite sure.
I'll call Swisscom afterwards and see what's going on my home Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Have a word. Okay. Perfect. So let's talk about kind of key defining moments to get to where you are. It's maybe a challenging question as well. I mean, why do you think you got to where you are, other than taking the jobs that no one else wanted, apparently? And
I've maybe done myself a disservice there, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. You know, well, there's kind of some key moments, and it doesn't mean necessarily a moment, just, you know, a day or a week. It could be a year or something that happened to kind of define your career, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, two things. I'll go a bit more generic first of all, in terms of the key things that were a trend that allowed me to develop my career quickly. You know, and the first two, I suppose, are something either you have or you don't have, you know, within your DNA. And you know, for me, simple fact, I was the one in my business, in my team, in my company, wherever I worked the hardest. And when I say the hardest, I don't necessarily mean I was there at 6 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock in the evening. That doesn't mean hard work. That probably means you're a bit crazy, or you don't have a good social life. You know, but when I say hardest, I mean when I was at my desk, I was laser focused on what I was there for. You know, I wasn't the super friendly, cool guy that would go and stand at the coffee machine and have a chat for half an hour. You know, people wouldn't come and talk to me about that, because they knew when I was sat there and had my headset on and I was sat in front of my computer, I was there to do business. I was there to find good candidates. I was there to find good jobs, and I was there to make placements. So between that sort of 8 o'clock and 6:30 p.m. as it used to be back in the UK, probably back in those days, you know, that they were your core working hours. Yeah, total laser focus on what I needed to do. No distractions, no email, just pure focused on the result. That was the first thing. The second thing, I was always very vocal about my ambitions. You know, I made it clear. I think I was probably one of those trainees that everybody hates, you know, who was in the room saying, "Yeah, one day
here he comes again."
Yeah, exactly. You know, one day I want your job, and you're like, "Sure, no chance," you know. But I mean, in the end, yes. But I think the ambition that I had from the very beginning of my career, I was very vocal about it. So I always told my bosses in my monthly reviews or my quarterly appraisals, I want the next job. What do I need to do for the next job? What do I need to do for the next job? And when I knew exactly what I needed to do, again, I'd be the hardest working guy to go and get it. So, and in recruitment, because typically it's very, very transparent about what you need to do, it's normally within your control, give or take a bit of bad luck sometimes. But you know, so they were the sort of primary factors. As a recruitment consultant, day to day on my desk, as a consultant, as a manager, even today, I was always focused on the outcomes, right? And you know, I worked for three of probably the biggest recruitment agencies in the world, in Michael Page, Walters, and Hayes. And there's of course a sales funnel, right? You know, X amount of calls means X amount of something else, right? But I didn't care about it. I was really just focused on, how can I make placements? And whether I need to make 1,000 telephone calls or I need to make 3, I don't care, because what I need to find is a really good candidate for a really good job. If I call one person and get that good candidate, great. I don't need to call another 44 of them, you know, for that particular role. So I was always outcome driven. Whereas I had other colleagues sat next to me who were like, "Oh, I've made 83 phone calls this week." I was like, "I don't care, mate. I don't even know how many phone calls I've made. But what I do know is I've got 3 jobs and I've sent 4 CVs to each job, and each one of those jobs has interviews on it. So well done on your 83 calls and no jobs. Congratulations, you're not getting promoted anytime soon." So, you know, I think the burden of KPIs and the whitewash that poor managers often hit people with. My advice is totally ignore them. You know, really focus on the outcomes, focus on the things that get closest to the deal, and that's normally interviews. So I was the interview king. You know, that was the driver of my personal activity. And then the most defining moment, I think the most defining moment was going overseas, to be honest. You know, the UK recruitment market, it's and I'd like to think I was a good performer when I was in it, but it's very saturated. Yeah, there's so many agencies, there's so many clients and candidates as well at the same time, but it was a bit of a rat race. I think going overseas, you know, it took, you know, a huge breath of fresh air into my career, you know, to arrive. Not only then were you totally motivated about living in a new city or a new country, that your personal motivation was then sky high. And if you're a happy, motivated individual, irrespective of your work, normally you then turn up to work in a good mood. And normally when you go to work in a good mood, you're a bit more productive than if you're in a bad mood. So I think making the step internationally was something I absolutely never regret. And then now, like I said, you know, I've lived in Switzerland for the last sort of 4.5 years, and I expect that we'll live here for forever. So, you know, it's the UK, that ship sailed a long time ago. And then taking that global perspective now to Switzerland, which is obviously such a multicultural country in itself, you know, it gives you a different perspective. When you talk about technology recruitment trends, when you talk to customers, you have so many different touch points in common with them. When they say they have a Singapore office, it's like, "Oh, great, I used to live in Singapore." It's like, "Oh, really?" It's a story. and it makes it unique. So it also allows you to infiltrate that Swiss relationship-driven industry, probably a little bit more quickly than it would have done if I'd just turned up here from London, for the first time. You've got more of a conversation started with people. So I think that was the most defining moment.
Profile and experience, and experience. You've had a different exposure to other cultures. I think regardless of anyone, I think it's a fantastic thing for people to do, especially when you're young. To go somewhere, live in another country, experience another culture, another world, another working environment. I think for personal growth, that kind of out of your comfort zone and just kind of into the unexpected can be so fantastic. I think it really makes a big difference.
Yeah, totally agree. And it all eventually comes down to how good you are at your job, right? So you can't go and get a move to Singapore if you're an underperformer. Nobody's going to ask you to go and launch the India business if you're an underperformer. So recruitment is still always about results. When you get results, you get noticed, and when you get noticed, you get more responsibility. When you get more responsibility, you run a bigger P&L. When you run a bigger P&L, you make more of a contribution to a business, and naturally, then normally when you're on that trajectory, it doesn't go backwards. So I was just very fortunate to have those opportunities at a young age. Like I said, being in India at 25, in China at 27, 28, being in Switzerland at 30, in charge as a director of multiple businesses in Hayes. It came only through being the hardest worker in the room, being the most ambitious, and making sure that beyond the talk, that you can actually be successful in this industry, which is ultimately finding good people, good jobs, right?
It's not more delivering what we need to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So, I mean, talking a little bit now about kind of Frank Group, where you are today. You've been on this journey around the world, at home now in Switzerland. I mean, tell us a bit, why did you join Frank Group? What for you was the differentiator? Because there's a lot of companies out there, there's a lot of brands. I know personally a lot of companies that want to set up here in Switzerland, and are looking for people to kind of head that up. So why the Frank Group?
Well, for me, I think the future, and this is again personal view, I think the future of recruitment is in specialization. Clear. Right, being a generalist staffing business is not going to wash in 10 years' time. Okay, so if the future of recruitment is in pure niche specialization, this is one part of my decision-making process. The second part is to say, what's the future of the world? and the future of the world, in again, my humble opinion, is not placing, logistics operators or financial accountants. It's technology. The future of the world is tech and it's life sciences, I believe. I think those two industries are absolutely bulletproof. So, if specialist recruitment is the future, and if technology is the future, well, then I think, okay, well, who are the leading specialist technology recruiter in the world? And when you go and do that research, you get to Frank Recruitment Group. So it's the leading pure tech cloud-driven specialist recruitment agency, but they just didn't have a presence in Switzerland. It's a hugely successful business in the US, in the UK, in Singapore, in Australia, in Germany, in France, in Spain. But Switzerland had been under the radar a little bit. They'd done some Swiss recruitment from Germany, but it didn't really exist. So, for me to come in and to work with a bunch of ex Hayes leadership team. So the CEO of Frank Recruitment Group is ex Hayes. The global MD is ex Hayes. So there was a familiarity of the structure, the process, the marketing drive of a global organization, but then the total unique startup factor to build an organization in Switzerland from scratch. For me, I'm 35, right? I could have stayed at Hayes and had I'm not disrespecting Hayes leadership here at all, but I could have stayed at Hayes and had a good job, and enjoyed managing many teams across different cities, and but was that really the driving force of where my energy and motivation and ambition comes? When FRG came into the fray and said, hey, we want to set up a business in Switzerland, we want you to lead it, you can bring whoever you want to come on that journey with you, but categorically we want you to build the undisputed market leading technology only recruitment agency in Switzerland. And we want you to do it. Specialization, technology, opportunity, entrepreneurialism, feeling that I run my own company, but genuinely part of a huge global brand, utilizing all that network that they have with the software vendors of Microsoft, Salesforce, AWS, to come in and build a company from scratch. Super cool. And like I said earlier, you know, the most fun part of my recruitment career was probably in Mumbai when I had exactly that experience. You know, but now I'm obviously doing that in Switzerland, and very quickly we're making a noise, and that's only really due to the good people that trusted me with their careers to come on the journey. But I think as long as they think they've got a good leader and a good business plan, then we shouldn't have too many issues.
But I think there's something to be said about being in that startup mode. You know, everybody joining at the same time, everyone with a vision, a passion. There's a direction to where you're going. It's very a unique culture in comparison to joining an existing company where you have people that have been there for many years. People are quite comfortable. I can imagine it being quite an exciting and dynamic environment, and everyone's raring to go, basically.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, to give you an example, right? We started the Swiss business last year, and we're already on our third Geneva office, right? So, I mean, even think about the crazy logistics that Jennifer Chanel, my operations and HR manager, you know, she's had to relocate the office 3 times in 9 months because we've just outgrown the space. You know, we've just hired more and more good people. We've been thankfully more successful in helping our clients and our candidates. And, you know, everything's just moving at 1,000 miles an hour. But again, I wouldn't have it any other way. And then the best thing about FRG is that's never going to stop. It doesn't get to a point in technology recruitment that you've done enough, you know, because whenever you think you've done enough, Microsoft will launch a new cloud, you know, and then there's a whole new upgrade facility that needs to take place across, you know, a global organization. So, you know, it will constantly evolve. We're opening a Zurich office in September. We'll launch our office in Vienna and launch Austria next year. So everything's just moving forward, and you know that startup factor, like you said, is what gets me up in the morning and keeps me there in the evening at the moment.
Yeah, but I guess it's positive and negatives of everything.
Be careful what you wish for. Yeah,
exactly. But it's interesting what you say about specialism. You know, I very much on the same page that I think that, you know, with the way that technology as a whole is developing and the amount of things that are being automated, you know, being a generalist, you know, these are the kind of things which will be in the future, maybe not this year, next year, but will be in the future, hugely automated. What is extremely hard to automate is when somebody is a specialist and expert with a fantastic network and understanding of the candidates, of the clients, that can connect everything together. That's extremely hard to automate or to take away. And agree as well. You know, tech and life science, these are, you know, 2 of the best markets to be in. Certainly what I've seen in the last year, you know, recruiting recruiters for companies like yours, you know, is that the life science and tech market have been the most stable, have been the ones that have continued hiring during this period, at times even benefited, obviously, if you talk about life sciences. And even, you know, from a tech side of things, the amount of drive that then went from everyone working from home and the change in technology and support and infrastructure, that everything around it in regards to a delivery and demand for IT people, just kind of added to that niche as well.
Yeah, I mean, it accelerated the tech recruitment industry by about 4 years overnight in Switzerland. You know, and this CIO series that I'm also doing, you know, every CIO is telling me the same things, you know, that their industry is just growing and growing and growing. And all as they have a demand for, the only thing that's going to prevent them from growing as quickly as they want is good people. So, you know, what a market to be in, you know, and so I think we're here at just the right time with hopefully just the right message. So far, so good.
No, fantastic. And yeah, it's great to see also the videos and the content coming out. So Paul's been, for those who don't know, Paul's been recently interviewing local, I believe, Swiss-based, CIs, CTOs, in and around different topics. So, you can check that, I think, on your LinkedIn company page or on your personal page. It's great to see some video content and different things coming out from that as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so in regards to kind of the future, I guess this is a double-sided question. On one side, where you talked about your aspirations for wanting to be the tech recruitment expert for Switzerland or Switzerland, Austria. So, I mean, what does that look like? How big do you want to get? And
okay.
And the other side will be, and where do you see yourself in the future?
Yeah, okay, cool. So from a business perspective, I think if we're the undisputed technology recruitment leader in the Swiss and Austrian market, my business plan set out that we probably need 100 people thereabouts to have control of that market. And control of that market, I mean, with the vendors directly, like I said, with the three major vendors, with the partner community and the IT consulting firms, and then with the end user businesses. And because the linchpins of our specialization are Microsoft, Salesforce, and AWS, they're the three biggest cloud opportunities, over the course of the next 3, 4, 5 years. So the demand in the market's there. We need good people to absolutely take us on that journey. We can't do that without that strength in depth. And to have, like I say, a presence in Swiss Romand, a presence in the German part of Switzerland, to have a presence in Austria, those are three fundamental flags in the ground, if you like. So that's a little bit on the business trajectory. In terms of from a personal perspective, yes, I'm as ambitious as I was 16 years ago when I walked into the recruitment industry for the first time. And my objective, simply aside of creating this market leading tech recruitment business, is to then take on more responsibility in our group. FRG are owned by one of the biggest private equity firms in the world, TPG. So the appetite for further investment, for further growth, is on a global scale. So my next plan is to sort of look at my boss, who runs the whole of the DACH region, and push him upwards within the company, not any other direction, and take on the DACH region at some point in the future. That's obviously a huge slice of the Frank Recruitment Group pie. But why stop there? Like I said, I feel, even though I've been in this industry many years now, I still feel young. At 35, I think if I'm running the DACH region by the time I'm 40, I've then got a good trajectory to then take over. Whether it's the business in its entirety, the recruitment part of our organization. That's the top job. So they don't come along very often. But the intention is absolutely to say, we're the global leader in specialist tech recruitment. There's no other business I'd rather work for. It's been a great initial journey in FRG, and I think hopefully the future's bright for me personally as well as the business. So I'm not gonna stop until I suppose you can't go any further. That's the dream.
Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds awesome. I mean, I've got a picture from what you said earlier of you, in your kind of monthly meetings or whatever it may be with your manager. So, what's the target? What do I need to do to get to the next step?
It's true. Marco hates me. He's like, Paul, just calm down. I'm not time to calm down yet.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. No, perfect. Well, maybe one other question that kind of comes to my mind. Do you, when you think about growing and going up in an organization, how do you think an individual, and especially in our business, how do you think somebody knows when they've reached their level of peak performance, let's say, or in regards to the hierarchy and responsibility that they have? I once heard this expression. I think you only know that you've gone too high in an organization when once you've reached it, kind of thing. Once you're there, saying, okay, this isn't really what I thought it would be. But what's your opinion on that?
I mean, I think it comes down to the individual, right? You know, there's a lady that works for me here and now, you know, called Tanya, and you know, when she was working with me in my previous organization, you know, she was the leader of the IT contracting business. She had 10, 12 people in a department. You know, they were printing money. You know, it was absolutely super successful. And when I asked her to come and work with me at FRG, which she said yes to, and she's here, you know, it was, she said, yeah, I'll come. But Paul, you know what? I'm not interested in managing 15, 20 people anymore. You know, she's like, I love my clients. I love my candidates. You know, I want to make a good income, but I also want to have a good lifestyle. So she loves the hybrid work policy and all the rest of it. But, you know, for Tanya, does it mean that she's less successful because she's not managing anyone anymore? No, you know, she might even earn more money, you know, not managing people than she would be if she was. So, you know, I think it really depends. Her definition of success isn't leading the biggest team. It's doing the best job for her client base. Whereas, you know, for some other people, it's like, oh, I've got a team of 42, so I must be a better manager than you. You only manage 14 people. You know, like, boring. You know, like totally irrelevant. You know, you run your own business. You know, arguably you're more successful than somebody that doesn't own their own company. I mean, it really comes down to an individual's perception of what that success is. So I don't know whether there's a point where you know that you've reached your potential or not. I think it's driven from your ambition as well. If you have the ambition to be the CEO of an organization or the MD of a company, well, when you've got there, you know you've done something right. You know, if you don't have that ambition, but you have, you know, the ambition to earn X amount of money a year, or you have the ambition to, I don't know, you know, work from your laptop in South Africa 4 months a year, you know, you also feel like you've won, right? So it really comes down to the individual person, and the art of a manager, if we go back to your previous question earlier, is to understand what those push points are. You know, if I was driving Tanya Kruger to hire people and hire people and hire people, you know, I'd be pushing the wrong buttons to keep her motivated. And ultimately, then at some point she'd leave because she think I'm pushing her in the wrong direction. So yeah, talk to your people, understand what they want, and then tailor your approach as a manager to your team. It's absolutely the biggest mistake as a manager is to be the same manager to 20 different individuals, because those 20 people are not the same. So yeah, I think in summary, it comes down to that personal preference as to where you want your career to go, and then your personal feeling as to whether you've succeeded or not. Only you know the answer to it. You know, I know the answer to it if you asked it me directly, and I've nowhere near fulfilled what I hope I'm capable of doing in my career. But other people might feel that. My boss might feel I've absolutely already surpassed my level. I don't know. You know, well, you should get him on, but it comes down to each person, I think.
No, perfect. I appreciate the honesty. No, great. Well, look, I think that slowly brings us to the end of the session, just shy of an hour. The time has absolutely flown past, Paul. You know, it's felt like a conversation, you know, between two experienced people. I think the only thing missing is a beer in the hand. And,
I agree.
You know, minus the waistcoat and shirts, let's say.
Exactly.
No, but so let me thank you very much for joining, for sharing with us a bit about your journey, your experiences. It's been an absolute pleasure and very refreshing to hear what I consider a very modern and forward-thinking mindset towards management, towards the business. You know, I really enjoyed listening to your answers, as I'm sure our guests, or what's the word I'm looking for? Zuschauer, or the viewers. There we go.
The viewers. You think in Swiss German more than you think in English now. Come on.
18 years in Zurich, and you know, I know the Swiss word, but I don't know the English word.
But I envy you. If I've got one weakness as a British man, it's being able to pick up languages fluently. So if I have a huge gap in my skill set, it's definitely that. So good effort.
Well, you know, you've got time. You've got time. But no, so I really appreciate it. It's been an absolute blast, an absolute pleasure. We'll be back in about a month's time with the next Swiss Recruitment Journeys. Next Friday, we have a special live session from the new series of Ask a Recruiter. More details coming out on Monday that you'll see. Very exciting. We're actually going to be doing some live CV reviews, showing you how a recruiter looks at a CV, breaking them down, positives and negatives, helping candidates understand how they can better position themselves from their CV. So looking forward to that as well.
Great.
So in the meantime, I wish you all, and especially you, Paul, a wonderful rest of the Friday, a wonderful weekend. Let's hope England perform tonight in the football, as we know they should. Exactly. And yeah, really, thanks again, Paul. Been a pleasure.
Oh, cool.
And wishing you all a fantastic weekend.
Thanks again to you, Lee. Much appreciated.
Cheers,
Cheers.